I put that in a structured thing, and I made a web page, and I made it myself on Wix, and it was the ugliest thing ever, right? And yeah, and I'm like, I don't know anything about this. It's like now I got this thing, and I don't know anything about the online marketing world. 3 years ago, I had never sold a freaking thing online. I know nothing about this, and I'm like, I need help. And I think that's something also that is different about me. It's like I know I can't do everything myself, and I know for certain I do not know everything. And I have no fear of saying I don't know this. So I said, I don't know this. Let me start calling all my friends. And in that next day, I made 30 phone calls to anybody that I thought might know something.
Hello and welcome to the MTB Performance Project. I'm your host, Mickey Bruckner. Today we have on the episode owner and founder of High Power Performance and Good Drill, Bobby Whyte. How you doing, buddy?
Good. I don't hear the high power performance word too often. We've kind of
Not much.
morphed into good drills. So it's bringing me back.
Yeah, I mean, when we first met, you were just starting Good Drills, and it's crazy to see your evolution where you're at today. I'm really happy for you.
Yeah, when I first met you, good drills wasn't a thing, and yeah, no,
I
it
don't
wasn't
even
even a
think
thing.
high power wasn't even a thing. So
No,
you were
you're
you
right.
were just getting started.
Yeah, I was actually annex for a little bit.
Yeah, for a minute, and then I think you quickly realized that you wanted to go off and do something on your own, which was, I was like, "Good luck and wish you the best." And um, yeah, it proved to be a good decision for you.
Yeah, no, it wasn't even about wanting to do my own thing. I just knew I wanted to do basketball, and the ceilings in your uh, unbelievable facility were just wouldn't allow a basketball hoop in there. So it was really, I knew I wanted to do basketball.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that was very much clear out of the gates that that was kind of where you wanted to take your evolution as a coach. I mean, you've got a pretty substantial following on social media. I'm sure very well known in the basketball community, but for people who don't necessarily know who you are and your background, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Starting from when?
Your choice.
So we'll do high school, Bobby, because that was a tumultuous time. I I played everything growing up. I went into high school, three sport athletes with other sports on the side that I did just for fun. I loved it. Thinking back to sports, it was the relationship I had with my father. My dad was captain of the Syracuse crew team. He was a catcher. Just had that hard work ethic, but not like overbearing, not a yeller, very calm, cool, collected, as he would say, peachy keen, neat. And but as a catcher, he was throwing that ball back to the pitcher, the same speed it was coming at him. He was beating the guy running down the first baseline to first base. So it wasn't like an aggressive thing. It was just this is how it's done. So I always had that, but from him throwing me pitches and hitting BP, I threw out his shoulder. He was probably like 50 something years old. I had to retire from throwing me pitches, but it was that rebounding for me. It was really that connection with my father that I look back on like the most fondly about sports. But as much as I love sports, I was terrified of other people, right? And that's a pretty big thing to be terrified of when you're playing team sports. I was always worried about what my teammates thought about me, what the coach thought about me, what the fans thought about me. What I cared more about what you thought about me than what I thought about myself. And that doesn't do you don't do well. I could be a 400 batter. I could throw 90. I could shoot for 50% from three. I could have the handle. I could dunk. I could not that I had all those things, but like if you do have all those things and you're terrified of other people, like they don't do much, right? And that was me. I wasn't that great of an athlete, but I was, a typical suburban, white kid athlete from Morris County, New Jersey, and I was pretty good. I wasn't a superstar, but I was just I was never confident in any of my abilities. So I ended up being a Division III basketball player. I went to Utica uh, in upstate New York. Don't ever go there. There's nothing to see. Uh, I picked it because the year before I went there, they went to the Sweet 16 of the D3 national tournament. The coach ran it like a D1 program. Basketball was the most important thing to me at that point. And I recommend all young athletes going to college, don't go to a D3 college for that reason, right? Go to a place where you can actually see yourself living, because at that level, it's very important that you enjoy the school, you enjoy the setting, you enjoy all the stuff off of the court. Because as much as I love basketball, it was just a miserable place to be for what ended up being 5 years. The coach that recruited me that I loved and is the best coach I've ever had, he left after my sophomore year. But at that point, transferring wasn't a thing. For me to transfer would be me quitting. And like I've mentioned before with my dad, I wasn't a quitter. I wasn't going to quit. And so I stayed. The new coach I didn't get along with. And I really struggled. You know this, but I really struggled off the court, and I really got into the partying and all those type of things. But I had a pretty miserable experience in college. But luckily, I turned it around a couple years out of college. So the partying progressed till I hit an absolute bottom. Got my life together at 24 and a half years old. I've been sober ever since. But then it was like, what do I know? What do I like? When was the last time I was happy? And there were two things that clearly popped up in my mind. One, when I was part of the youth group before I got into drinking and drugging, when I went on service trips, when I was, doing that was a place where I felt like I could be myself. But the problem was it was only 1 hour a week where I got to go to youth group, or it was, one mission trip a year or two mission trips a year. And it was never enough to carry into all the other aspects of my life. So service was huge. And the other thing, all else I knew was working out and playing basketball. So I was like, I can't sit in a box. I'm not going to go get a job. I don't even have a driver's license at this point. I don't have a car. I've got however much debt I've racked up. And I reached out to my trainers from high school and college, which, Eric DeGotti, Mark Leibowitz, those guys were my trainers from MTB Performance. I reached out to them, what do I have to do to be a trainer for you? And they put me through the whole apprenticeship process. And that was on the sports performance side. And then I did the same thing on the basketball side. My skill trainer in high school was Kent Kaluko. And, Kent, what do I have to do to start working for you? He's like, just come over and start training basketball players. So I started to kind of do both simultaneously. And I also reignited my love for playing. And I tried out for an ABA team, the New Jersey Express, very glamorous lifestyle playing in the ABA. I made the team. And that introduced me to a lot of guys that were playing in all the top leagues in New York City. So I was playing at Dykeman, Rucker Park, West 4th Street. And now that I was working on myself, I got the drugs and the alcohol and the partying out of myself. I was pouring into athletes. So I got that service component from working with athletes. And as long as I was making enough money to buy gas and, dollar menu McDonald's at that point, I was pretty happy. And then I fell in love with playing again. I fell in love with serving others. And once I started to work on myself and I got all that stuff that I really struggled with, the just feeling illegitimate. That I felt like I had this hole in my stomach all the time, and I would try to just fill it with people pleasing and all these other things that just weren't the answer. And once I started to work on that and found other people that had been through what I've been through and turned it around and started asking them questions, started doing what they told me to do, I started to actually like myself. And that was the first time in a long time that I actually liked myself. And it's crazy because how quickly it went from, a D3 dropout that was miserable drug addict to now I'm playing at Dykeman and actually getting really good at basketball. And it's like nothing changed from a training perspective. What changed was my approach and how I viewed myself. And now I'm dropping 30 in these leagues, and then I get hooked up with an agent. And then, within 6 months of being sober, I'm in the Dominican Republic playing professional basketball. And again, I'm not making any money, but I got to do I got to do what I once loved a little bit longer. And I got to the level where I actually was able to get on a plane, go over to the Dominican Republic. I thought I was going to be there's another funny story. I think I'm going to be on a beach, in the Dominican Republic. I was in the middlest part of the Dominican Republic you could be, 3 hours from the beach in the slums. They had to lock us in with like machine guns at night. And there's rabid dogs running around and people on the streets. But I loved it. It was the experience. And when I first started getting into the training, it was like, it wasn't about money. It wasn't about anything other than, I kind of threw away years of my life, being miserable, doing drugs. And now I just want to experience as much life as I can. And I said yes to every opportunity that was in the direction of experiences I'd never had, which led me to Eric and MTB Performance, and then being in what 6 months in, I didn't know anything. I went through the apprenticeship process, but 6 months in there, I'm in the Quest Diagnostic Center, and Eli Manning is standing over my shoulder. And you have one of those moments like, what the heck is going on? And that's what Odell was there. Like I can vividly remember being there, and Odell is ripping Eli apart, making fun of him for the car he drives or something like that. And it was just like, this is insane. And flash forward 12 years from there, here I am talking to you. And you're one of those guys back in the beginning that I met and have always respected. And of course, I'll say yes to coming on here. So
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. Do you think that without those challenges that you faced, you said hitting that rock bottom period, do you think having that context would have made you appreciated those smaller moments, early, like towards the end of like what you call your basketball career in Dominican Republic? I think a lot of people would see that as maybe a step down from organized or professional sports, but to you, that was a moment that you kind of enjoyed and took value out of. Would you say like maybe without those experiences early on that wouldn't have happened?
100%. I wouldn't have, if I didn't go through all of that, I don't know what my life would look like today, but I promise you I wouldn't be 1% of as grateful as I am now. Right? I've been able to, there's not that my life is just, sunshine and rainbows all the time, but I always can bring it back when I can just zoom out. Right? I'm in the day to day of entrepreneurship and growing a business and looking at metric, content. Right? It's like, and it's sometimes hard to disassociate like problems with work from problems with my life. And it's like, I have zero problems in my life today. I have a beautiful wife. I have a beautiful daughter. I've got a beautiful home. I've got all these things, but for me, the struggle is today is like cutting off the work problems from the life problems. And I'm glad I have a daily practice of, and I own like moments of my day I have to have geared into where I can zoom out and look at the bigger picture of how far I've come and really appreciate everything that I have.
That's probably one of the most challenging things of being an entrepreneur, and as somebody who's also a husband and father and built a business, it becomes very challenging where, you have to almost you can't approach your home life like you do in your work life, right? Like I have a friend who I talk to on a regular basis who kind of like a mental skills coach, and he talks about where, when like your relationship with your kids is not going to be the same as the relationship with your employees, like versus like when you leave and get out of the car to walk in your house at the end of a day, like you've got to leave all your problems and challenges in the car and almost put on a different identity. And that's really hard for a lot of people. And yeah, some days it's easy to do and some days it's really hard to do, but I can respect the fact that like, knowing you and knowing that you're very intentional about the things you do and the roles you play, like that's hard. So
Yeah, it's hard for us and it's way harder for our wives.
yeah, yeah. Um, so I mean, obviously, you're very um, niched in the baseball or in the basketball community. Would you would you say that without that experience as a basketball player, like playing competitively through college, high school, in from a professional standpoint, do you think that's helped you serve all of your basketball athletes in a greater capacity had you not played basketball?
Uh, it's a good question. I think you could give me a sport I've never played right now and tell me to go teach it, and I could do it at an elite level very quickly because I think development is development, and I think learning is learning. And if you look at how learning occurs and how development occurs, I think it can spread across all genres of sport. But there's also something to my ability to actually play. We've got Division 1 players in our gym every single night that we're there, and I am in the gym, not just training them. We play pickup, 3-on-3 games. I am jumping in every single session because these kids, most of these kids now, they're Division 1 talent. They're going to be going to Division 1 schools, but when I'm getting them, they're juniors in high school and seniors in high school. And it's like, I firmly believe that you're going to grow to the environment around you. And that's going to be the biggest dictator of how far you go, is surrounding yourself with people in the direction of where you want to go. So I have like a persona in the gym. It's like when I played competitively and I'm going to the DR and I'm playing in the city, I wasn't this loud, obnoxious shit talk, like, crap talker. I just wasn't, I could talk, trust me, but it wasn't the level that I am in the gym. And I was just talking about this with Ross, the other trainer I work with. It's like, I, I never really consciously did it on purpose, but because I am who I am and I have the ability to play, even at 37 now, I can jump in with these guys and mix it up. I bring the level of the gym, to something they've never experienced. And these are really good basketball players. And it's like, I want to show them a level that they've never even seen. So now when I get, because I have the ability to dribble, shoot, still dunk, still move, still guard these guys, I'm still strong enough.
Yeah.
I'm not, but it definitely helps in that regard. I think it does earn a level of respect from those guys. Whereas if I, was some overweight guy that, played golf in high school, I probably wouldn't command the same respect that I can now.
Yeah, I'm sure from an athlete buy-in and just overall level of respect that it like you said, it kinda garners a different level from these athletes where, like, they see you jumping in and walking the walk. That's important, right? I mean, most coaches don't wanna necessarily, um, admit that, right? Because it's hard to keep that level of output up, especially as you get older and training is harder and showing up every day is harder and like there's so many different competing demands. But like I think kids really do respect that. I think that's such an important aspect of being a coach is you got to walk the walk. So
Yeah. I was just thinking one of the other day, I was like, these kids are 17. I just turned 37. When the heck did I become 20 years older than these guys? Like I don't feel
yeah,
different. I mean,
yeah.
but I've always been injured. Like it's like, I get a little tweak in my knee or my low back now. It's like, oh, you're getting old. I'm like, I'm getting hurt my entire life. This is nothing new.
Yeah. Yeah. What I mean, so it seems like from my perspective, watching what you do and putting out there from a content standpoint, it's a hybrid between strength and conditioning, skills development. Would you say like where do you spend most of your time with these kids when it comes to like I'm talking about in person, like brick and mortar in your space?
I'm in the middle. So if you've seen our setup, it's an old Catholic school, middle school, and we've got the 94-foot court, and behind that is our glamorous stage, state of the art, like your facility, right? We've got all the, rogue equipment and all that, right? No, no, it's a hodgepodge of, dumbbells and kettlebells and wherever I found them, and I love it. But I'm literally right in the middle. So I've got a full-time, strength coach that oversees all of that. Obviously, we've got all our systems and programmings, laid out, and then I've got a guy on the court at all times, and I'm kind of literally typically right between the court and that stage. And if I see something happening on the stage I want to get involved with, I hop up on the stage. If I see something on the court I want to hop in on, I hop in on the court. I do run sessions, but typically I don't have to run sessions, and that's the way I wanted it, where I feel like a controller of energy in the gym, and that's what I want to do. So it's like I'm not typically on as much content as I do. It's like when we have kids in there paying us to train them, I really love just witnessing the environment and looking at the energy of the room, and I get to kind of morph that energy around how I want it.
And has that always been the case from day one, or is that kind of evolved as you've seen to allow you to enable to create the best experience for the athletes?
No, I used to do everything. I had to do everything. Yeah, I after I left you guys, it
Yeah.
was like, I gotta start my own business. What's an LLC? I what the heck? How do I do it? I didn't pay taxes for 3 years because I didn't think it was that important. It is important. You have to pay taxes. Um, but no, because I couldn't. I just want to be the best at everything I can do, but I can't be the best at everything I do. So it was like, what's the most important thing? And I really just focus on that. And I was doing all the strength training, and we would have the earlier hours were stacked. At the facility I used to have the warehouse facility, and I would run 2 to 3 hours of, after school hours of strength training. And then the basketball training would line up after that. And I would be hopping from the strength room, from the gym right onto the court. And I used to do everything, and it was just me. And then I would find some other trainers early on that would help. And now I could start stacking the sessions so kids could come in and get their lift in and then go right on the court after.
That's usually the story of most young solopreneurs where you start everything and then over time you start to realize like you're the roadblock and you need more people and more effort and more bandwidth from other individuals to help you grow it. So
Yeah. I'm fortunate that, like, when I said, like, I was really after the experiences, and if I had to live on peanut butter and jellies and, sleep in a $100 a month apartment, like, I would have been like, I didn't care at all about any of that. I didn't care about business. I didn't care about scaling. When he came from where I came from, it was just like, initially, the fact that people are paying of me to help them, like, it was just insane, and I just poured everything I could into the people in front of me, and the one of the biggest things I picked up early on was, like, as we have all the taxes and bills and this and all this stuff, it's like, you can always bring it back to the person in front of you, and it typically solves all the anxiety, all the worries, all the overwhelming, of running a business and trying to start this thing is bringing it back to the person in front of you and serving the person in front of you to the best of your ability. And that's what I really have hung on to from the time I started to now. You know, when I'm with people, I'm with people, and I want to do everything I can to help them. And it really does a good job of removing your ego. You know, it's not about what I want to give them, it's about what they need. And I really focus on that. And I think training, being a trainer, it's such a weird thing. Because it's like, what's the mark of a good trainer? How do you measure that? How do you measure what being a good trainer is? Like, we're servants, right? But how do you measure your ability to serve? It's, well, do you train NBA players? Well, I could go pay an NBA player 100 grand right now and get him in the gym. Does that mean I'm a better trainer? Or I'm really good at networking and I follow people around and I, you know, reach out to 1,000 NBA players a day and I get them to the gym. Does that mean I'm a good trainer? No. What does it mean? What are the metrics to prove how good you are as a trainer? I got all these followers now. You know, 3 years ago I had no followers. Now I have 1,000,000 followers. Am I better now because I have more followers? Absolutely not. Anyway,
Yeah. No, and I think it gets back to your previous point earlier that you found the most amount of purpose through service, right? And you're absolutely right. At the end of the day, as strength coaches, we are providing a service. Doesn't matter what that service is. Um, so what is it that makes your service better than others? And that to me is where a lot of people who get into this industry, I'm sure you've seen it, right? They worry, like they major in the minors. They worry about all the wrong things. And if you were to just simplify your approach to give your athletes the best possible experience and serve the person in front of you and do that consistently every day, you're unstoppable. Like that's where, I mean, that's what I did. I similar to you, when I started my business almost 20 years ago, I knew nothing about running a business. I knew how to train. I knew how to coach. I understood biomechanics and anatomy and physiology, and I understood all that stuff. But I knew nothing. So what I just did is like, all right, well, I'm going to serve the person in front of me best I can. Be honest, do the right thing as often as I can, right? And it's not a coincidence that over time good things happen. And it sounds like the same thing with you. So
what you just said, over time, like, and a lot of time, right?
yeah,
It's a lot of time. It's a lot of time. And it's like the only other thing I'm thinking of that allowed me to do that was I was smart enough or told by somebody smart enough, for me, it was like, keep your overhead as low as possible.
yeah,
And I've done that the entire time. You can see where I'm at now. Like, and that allows me really just to really focus. Like, I don't have to think about any of that. Something I say all the time when new trainers call me, it's like the chrome might get people in the gym, but it's not going to keep them in the gym, right? The experience is going to keep them in the gym. Your ability to connect, build relationships, and build a level of trust with your athletes is what's going to keep them there. And so many people miss that mark chasing the chrome, getting the new
yeah,
Vertimax, getting the new whatever shiny piece of equipment.
yeah, absolutely. So when you let's say you get a young hooper in, right? And young basketball player, maybe young high schooler or middle schooler, what's kind of like, how are you spending most of your time with them currently? Like what is your first principles, guiding principles in training that athlete?
Guiding principles in training a young hooper coming into my gym.
Yeah, just I mean, obviously for you, like there's yeah, let's use that as an example. Somebody, let's say I'm coming to you with my son. I want him to get better at basketball. What's your process look like? How do you talked about understanding skill acquisition and motor learning and all that stuff earlier, right? Like you kind of look at it in a certain way. Talk us through that.
I'm going to go back to things that people have said to me along the way that have impacted me more than anything. And it's, the more you learn about somebody, the more you can help them. And the second a new athlete walks in the door, I'm seeing the relationship with their parent. You know, is this going to be an overbearing parent? Is this a parent I'm going to like? What's this kid's facial expression coming into the gym? And then it's, why are you here? And at this point, people come in, they know who I am already. It's weird. Like, they know me. It's like, yeah, we see you on, yeah, yeah, I'm here. You know? But the process is, it starts with learning as much as I can about the athletes. And I used to have, I used to have mandatory one-on-one assessment where I was going to go through an entire movement assessment. We're going to get all the metrics on your strength, speed, vertical jump, your whatever. We're going to get all that stuff. And then I would have another time where I'm going to sit down and I'm going to play a game with you. And I'm going to learn, why I actually I had a game to figure out what was important to athletes and figuring out what their goals are. And I could take them and kind of rework, you know, actually figuring out why athletes were there. But I think it's still, I don't have that format anymore and that like structure of needing to have a one-on-one assessment. I kind of just throw them to the wolves. And if I see moments to step in and talk to them, but I look for those moments. So the thing I'm looking at most is level of engagement. At the point now, I don't think my skill set or the trainers I have skill set, like we're not babysitters. I never want to be a babysitter. I don't want any of the kids in the gym that are forced to be there, that the parents are pushing in the door. Please go somewhere else. Right. And that's my approach. So with that approach, because and it wasn't like this initially. Initially, it was like I'm trying to get everybody that comes in there to stay there and stay there as long as possible, and I would work on it a lot more. But nowadays, it's learning about them, throwing them to the wolves, getting them on the court. My the importance that I put on what I do has gotten less and less and less over time. Like realistically, these kids are going to come in 1, 2, maybe 3 hours a week, and my role is not that important from a strength training capacity to a skill capacity. It's what can I like give them that they can take from the gym, not what can I do them in the gym. And it comes back to building that level of trust that we talked about before, where they're going to want to come back and I'm going to see things and I'm going to always, lead with the truth. And I think that's what I do. If I had to say what I do better than average people is really deliver the truth to these athletes and really focus on the truth. And like, I think people are scared to do that because they want them to stay, and sometimes these kids come in and their dad says, "Well, my kid really needs to work on his jump shot," and I look at the kid, he can't dribble, he can't even tie his shoes, he can't throw a pass, he's scared of his own shadow, and he's weak as a whatever, and it's like, uh, I'm not gonna change this kid's life in 1 session, I'm not gonna change it in 2 sessions, I don't care how detailed my assessment process is, this kid's 14 and can't, walk in a straight line, right? It's like, we gotta get them to understand what it actually looks like to get better before we actually worry about what it takes to get better. It's like, no, this is gonna take work. It's gonna take commitment. The best athletes commit more than the lesser athletes. The best athletes are more obsessive than the lesser athletes. And I'm sorry, probably going away from your question at this point. So if you want to
Not
bring me
at all.
back, yeah.
No, no, I would agree. I think the best program in any situation or setting is the one that kids can be consistent with, regardless of what you're doing. And to be honest, like as a coach, you're going to evolve your level of coaching, from year to year to match what the athlete needs. But I would agree that one of the most important things is if you could educate the kid to understand what it takes to continue to progress and get better. And just like you said, getting back to the environment that your facility and what you create as a coach, it's hard for kids not to get better being in that situation, in that setting on a regular basis.
Yeah, the biggest value prop I have is the other athletes in that gym because we do weed out all the people that don't wanna be there. Like, it's clear. It's like we we kinda actively try to keep people out of our gym at this point. So it's like, if a new kid walks in, he's gonna get absorbed into the kids that have been there with us, the last 3 months, 6 months, 3 years, and they're gonna see what those guys do, and they're just gonna start doing what those guys do. And we hit all, what does a basketball player need? They need to be able to dribble. They need to have a baseline level of athleticism. They need to be able to shoot. We know what it takes to be a good basketball player. You need to be good at everything. There's nobody that makes it to Division I basketball unless you're 7'6", that can't dribble. And even now, the 7'6" guys can dribble. Like, you need to be an all around athlete and be able to coordinate that ball with your athleticism in all respects to the game. So we have a lot of work to do. So to like pinpoint flaws in a 14-year-old that can't do anything, it's a waste of time. It's like, we just need to start working, and you're going to see the way that we train and the style that we train. You're going to check every box that needs to be checked, other than actually suiting up in a uniform, going to a, game and playing in front of a crowd with coaches and running 5-on-5. But in terms of like skill, we're going to check all the boxes. You're going to be put in situations. We're going to find what's wrong with, what is your rate limiter, right? We're going to find that, kids come in and he's got a 43-inch vert, can dribble the ball, and he can't shoot. What are we going to focus on? Shooting. Same time, we got a kid that comes in and he shoots, 45% for three, but, slow as molasses and can't, we're going to focus on that. And he's going to find that out by competing. So we're going to put him against other athletes, and he's going to compete, and he's going to see where he's lost. And he comes up to me after a session, like, "What do you see?" Well, these kids are all better than you. You know, you need to start with why are they better than you? You need to go work on that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's overly complicated.
Yeah, it's almost like Lee Taft has a similar model where he uses like small-sided games and gameplay and competition to start to identify like where does the athlete what are they missing, like, through visualizing them in their competitive landscape, like what deficiencies do they have, and then kind of reverse engineer, okay, well, you're weak in this, so now let's design. And that's, again, that's much like I said earlier, always evolving. And then for you as a coach, like you're using competition to drive that assessment process on an ongoing basis. So, you're always meeting the athlete where they're at, giving them what they need, and making sure that, like you said, these athletes need to be around other athletes that are performing at a high level for them to continue to level up. Otherwise, they're just going to, be stuck with where they're at.
Yeah, it makes it really simple. Like, most of the time, I don't even need to tell them what they're bad at. We start competing in different small-sided games, and there's a million different games, we can make them up off the top of our heads, but, like, they're gonna leave there knowing what they're bad at, and if they really wanna get better, they're gonna work on the things that they're bad at.
Yeah.
It's
Do you think
yeah.
that's where, like, other than maybe something along these lines, as it relates to basketball athletes, do you feel there's any other ways that, your conventional weight room strength and conditioning setting is limiting the development of basketball players?
Um, in what regards? Like,
I mean, just if like any athlete is looking to improve performance as it relates to a basketball player, or just in general any athlete, like where do you think some of the limitations lie in, think of like conventional strength conditioning, like
yeah.
I'm going to go in a big group, like high school weight room, right? Like how is that limiting?
Yeah, I think you end up focusing on nuance or specialties that, aren't really that important, and you can fall into the trap of, okay, vertical jump is going up, 40-yard time is going up, what any other the wow, what the heck is going on with my voice? Any any of the other, metrics that you're measuring, you can just fall down that trap of improving those metrics, but they're not there to improve those metrics. They're there because they want a Division I scholarship. They are there because they want to get better, make their team. They are there because they want to get better at the sport they're playing. And that doesn't mean that improving those metrics won't help that, but there is a line where you're too focused on those metrics and the athlete is getting this validation and these wins, and they start competing over, oh, I had a 30-inch vert, now I have a 33. You still are on the bench. You know, you're still on the bench, you're still not playing, and it's like that needs to be framed right. Like, you can't get lost in that stuff. That stuff is important and will help. Building better athletes is going to help become a better basketball player, but getting lost in that, I think, happens a lot. And how much time and energy are these athletes focusing in the weight room when they still can't dribble a basketball? Right. And it's a balance. We do both. Like, we are strength guys. I was a professional strength coach in China. I was a professional strength coach at the college level. I worked with the, number 2 high school in the nation at one point as a strength coach. I love strength training. I strength trained this morning, but it's like, we need to keep the main thing the main thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe it just continues to go back to when we're coaching athletes that rely a ton on skill. Yes, there's like a minimum threshold that athletes need to achieve in a weight room, in from a just overall output, maybe just being a robust athlete, a conditioned athlete. Um, but if what you're doing is not helping them get better at their sport, then what's the value, right? And in your setting, you found a way, given your population of athletes, to
Amen.
really hone in on, like, all right, this is the athlete's weakness. It's clearly identified both by me and him or her, right? In competitive play, let's work on it. And so they see it. Let's get buy-in. Let's attack these things. And then, wow, coincidentally, you're getting better. So it's like you're giving them the frame to understand this is a different way of addressing performance,
I
rather
just
than
had a
just like
player.
the like, "Hey, this is the standardized program. We're gonna follow this from, the next 8 to 12 weeks, then you're gonna be a better athlete." Well, you might, in relation to what?
Yeah. Yeah, I
So,
just had an athlete start with me a couple weeks ago. Day 1, he comes in, I've never worked with him in my life. He tested a 43-inch approach vertical jump, right? And he was coming to me for both strength training and skill training. Because I do it the way I do it, I'm like, "You're not gonna strength train with us." Like, there's a
yeah,
now, if he came in and he had 15 Division I offers, right? If he came in, he had 15 Division I offers, okay, we'll strength the no, he's got no Division I offers. None. He's a very good player. He's got D3, D2 interest, and he's got Division I potential. I mean, that vert, a 43-inch vert would put him like number 13 all time in the NBA draft, NBA combine, right? And this is legit Vertec standing reach measured 43-inch vert.
that's
Something's
wild.
not right. Then I watch him play. He can actually dribble. He can actually shoot. He's very, very good. But he goes to a very, we're going to go back to environment. He goes to a very, very small school in Northern Jersey that is one of the worst basketball conferences, right, in the state. And he's LeBron there, right? But he's not LeBron, right? He's LeBron in the smallest pond available, right? So it's like, am I going to spend time? I want to spend 2 hours with him on the court, right? And really seeing what are the limitations? What is holding you back? I watch you go up and do a double, windmill 360 dunk. It's like you can, and he can shoot and he can dribble. It's like, so I want to focus on what I think is actually going to move the needle. And that's, again, what I bring it back to, serving the person in front of me. I want to learn more about what are the blocks that this kid has right now, because he can go. He can play, and me increasing his squat or getting him to a 45-inch vert is not the answer to him if he wants to play Division I basketball. So that allows me to open up to what can I do to help this kid get a scholarship? Like, what can I actually do? Removing my biases, removing my ego, removing what everybody's coming to me for. What does this kid actually need? And can I help him with that? And oftentimes I can't, but I'm going to try.
Yeah, I love that. And look, you've created the environment where you're capable of doing that, and you've identified what key, what KPIs are important in terms of these guys. Like clearly, like that individual, they checked all the boxes from a purely athletic standpoint, right? And then, but in a conventional model, most strength coaches would be like, all right, cool, can we get 44? Can we get 45? Like, what is that? Is that really going to matter? No. So what is this limiter? What's the, like you said, the limiting factor for this individual, you said, is he needs to compete. He needs to be in the environment that's going to get him to the next level. So I love that.
I mean, how many gyms in America would he go into and that would happen? Like, I don't think
Most.
who else would do that? Like, we're not going to do this with you. Like, if I
Yeah.
didn't have the court there and I was a strength, of course, yeah, we're gonna get you up to 40. You're gonna break like that, and that would be
Well,
normal. And I'm not mad at that. It's just like I have
yeah.
the ability to be like, we don't need to worry about this at all. We're gonna go do this.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
was his response to that when you said, well, we're not going to strength train?
He's like, what do I do? Well, so we have level two, and so level two is like our mid group, and then level three is all our top guys. I'm like, jump in with them, and it's all like kids 3 years younger than him that aren't as good. But we jumped in there. They know it's coming from the right place. Like I don't even need the gym isn't my business anymore either. Like that was the whole goal with the online stuff and the content. It was like I don't need the gym to provide for my family anymore. So I can really just lean into the truth. And guys like he wants to be a Division I basketball player. And here I am saying, no, we're not going to give you the service because you don't need it. I think they feel that truth. And now he comes back as much as possible. He's asking me after the set, like, what is it? And we're just having more relationship, building type conversations about what's really holding them back.
As you said, that's when you can really serve athletes.
Yeah.
That's
That's
when
my
you
bit. Like the amount of, like, you don't see this in the stuff I put out. Right. And that's, I've built this thing and we do low IQ content and, fix your left hand and this and that. But it's like, I love coming on here and be able to talk to guys like you because like none of that, I call it good drills because it's like, it's just not important. It's not that important to me. It doesn't excite me. It's not anything. What's exciting to me is the story I just told you. And like, can I do it? Because I don't know. Like, there's plenty of times kids come in like that. I got a lot of really good athletes that come in that don't get to the level they want to get to. But it's like that's what I'm after. It's like, can I do something there, to unlock that athlete? And I'm blessed I get to do that.
from the perspective of like your brick and mortar facility, it sounds like that really gave you a very good springboard to really create a system around how you train athletes and um, almost like a proving ground, so to speak, that like, hey, my methodology, my systems, my frameworks creates we create really good basketball players. So at what point did you, let's kind of get into like the good drills component because you just touched on it, is that when did you start to see like, oh wow, I can start to, yes, I love the in-person training, but there's an opportunity here. When did that happen? And how did that happen?
COVID, my wife got fired.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it was good
I
for
didn't
some
want,
things.
I was, you know, I had a trainer that worked for me at one point. Love him. He's off onto another career now, and I'm having like an open, honest conversation with him. The kids are in our gym, and I'm standing with him at half court, and I'm like, I could really scale this thing if I wanted to. Like I genuinely, a lot of people say that, right? I really believed that if I want to scale this thing to, whatever, 6-figure a month business, gym, like that, something of that. Like I really believe I could do it. Like I really do, and I'm also somebody that doesn't like to say things without doing them, so I don't want to go too far down that. But he's sitting there and I'm paying him whatever it is, an hour. And he's sitting there like, why don't you do that? Because he's like, I want to make more money. I was like, because it's not, the thought of 1,000 people in my gym does not excite me. I would rather have five of the right people. That's what excites me. The experiences I was just talking about, talking to this kid, that's what I want to be. And if I had 1,000 people in the gym and 800 of them were getting dragged there by their parents, I'm not going to be able to be the Bobby that I want to be. Right. I'm going to get diluted. And unless I start mentoring other trainers, you could do it, but I don't want to go down that road. So I'm just going to wait for this opportunity. Right. It's like, there's something bigger than this. I know I'm really good at what I do. I focused on becoming as good at my craft as I can. And I'm just going to be patient. And I believe the stars will align and God will provide. So my wife gets fired. All right. Well, she's a flight attendant. She makes, $34,000 a year. I was like, how can I make $34,000 a year? And I'd been talking about making an online program for a long time. I had friends in the industry who were selling online programs, both strength trainers, both skill trainers, shooting coaches, guys like that. And I had a little following on Instagram. I would post consistently for a little bit, then take 6 months off and get tired of it and go back. And maybe I had 20,000 followers. I'm like, I think I can make $30,000 a year selling an online program. So I put pretty much everything I do in the gym, filmed it all, and I made a PDF file which had YouTube links in it. And at first it was, I don't want anybody to communicate with me. So I'm just going to sell it for a one-time price. And I don't want to talk to anybody. So it's going to be $59 and you get 3 phases of strength training, 4 to 6 weeks each phase. And you get 3 phases of skill training. And it's just in one thing. I wrote a little like 10-page ebook thing to go along with it about, who I am and how I came to do this. And it was very simple. It was like, 1x20, as an eccentric phase. It was very, very simple strength training because I figure these kids are 15 years old and you can't do anything. So I want to make it safe. I'm not going to wow them with exercises. So we keep the strength training very general, very safe. I want kids that are 14 that know nothing to be able to do it safely. And the skill stuff, we do a lot of things differently than other people. We've got the falling component, we've got the positions, we got the different drills that we do that are kind of tying together athleticism and coordinating the ball with that athleticism. And I put that in a structured thing. And I made a web page and I made it myself on Wix and it was the ugliest thing ever. Right. And yeah. And I'm like, I don't know anything about this. It's like, now I got this thing and I don't know anything about the online marketing world. 3 years ago, I had never sold a freaking thing online. I know nothing about this. And I'm like, I need help. And I think that's something also that is different about me. It's like, I know I can't do everything myself. And I know for certain I do not know everything. And I have no fear of saying, I don't know this. So I said, I don't know this. Let me start calling all my friends. And in that next day, I made 30 phone calls to anybody that I thought might know something about selling an online program. And it led me to one of my friends that was previously a attorney in New York City that runs a life coaching business. It's just, let's call this guy. He might do something. And he connected me with this guy in England. And this guy in England was he's like, well, I'm working for this Instagram page that has 2.3 million followers. It's called Girls Building Empires. This guy was working for, right? He's like, but I'll take tea. I'll take tea with Bobby. All right. I'll have a Zoom tea with Bobby. I'm like, well, I drink coffee. I get on this thing. I end up doing what I do. I talked to him and I got into why he does what he does. And I showed him something about me. And I think he cried on that first session. We ended up getting into like some really deep conversation that I had no intention of getting into. And he's like, okay, I'll build you a sales page and I'll build you a funnel. I didn't know what a sales page was. I didn't know what a funnel was. I knew nothing of this. And he's like, I think we can do better than a PDF with YouTube links. Right. So then he hosted all the content, the videos and all the stuff in an online something or other. And I paid him whatever it was. And he built that. And we saw that we really got along. So like like when I'm on something, I'm on something. If he sends me a text, I'm getting him right back to him. Boom, boom. Oh, you need this, 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 this. And I'm just start going through it. And I'm like, wow, this is really cool. It's all math. Right. Once I started understanding what a funnel was, it's like, if we can prove a conversion rate on the sales page at 3%, then it's really a matter of just driving clicks to the thing. And my brain works on efficiency and I'm always looking to take the key components. I'll throw out everything. I'll forget, 99% of this conversation, but my brain is going to really key on like what I think is important. And it's like, oh, all I need to do is get this amount of this to this, and I make this amount of money. And I went through the whole simplified Bobby math version of this. And by the time we were done with it, it's like, hey, do you want to partner with me? And I gave, I'll just say it over. I gave up 50% of my business right there because I didn't know anything. I don't know anybody that does that. And we got started going. And then Good Drills was born. And I'm like, well, if it's really just math and I got to drive more page visits, how am I going to drive more page visits? Well, I need to get in front of more people. That's going to happen on social media. So I'll start posting more, and that's going to get more clicks to the thing. And then the thing's going to convert this. And I just went through this whole thing. And then when I get into something, I really get into it. And then I met Ross off TikTok. I don't know if anybody follows. I do everything with Ross now. Now enter a third partner. Ross came in and he's like, I'll work for free. I'm like, why? He's like, I want to prove to you, who I am. I'm like, that's odd. And so Ross came in and he works for a couple months. I don't pay him, I end up paying him something because I can't live with myself if somebody doesn't get anything. So I end up paying him something, but it's like, again, stars align. This guy that I met on TikTok that was doing duets in his car, and I was like laugh at, I end up bringing him in, and now I got like a counterpart to start making content. And dude, 3 years ago, like I couldn't put a sentence together on the camera. Like none of my content was me speaking. I didn't like the sound of my voice. I thought I was fat and ugly, and I judged everything about it. And it would take me 14 days to put out a 30-second video and reshoot it, 75 times. And now I'm writing sales copy and this and shooting VSLs, which is a video sales letter, 15-minute monologues of me talking in front of a thing that we never ended up even using, and spending 6 months designing a sales page that we never ended up using. But it's like people are looking at me like, why are you doing this? It's because I want to learn. I want to learn what this is. If I have to talk in a voice that isn't mine and make a 15-minute video of words that a copywriter wrote for me and it doesn't align with my principles and morals, I want to understand what these people think they know about marketing. And I'm okay going through the steps, doing something that I vehemently hate and disgusts me and turning me into some type of robot that is using this, sales script, right? And I remember the guy that was filming it is one of my best friends. And he's like, he's get this look of disgust that I'm saying, we're going to put 4 inches on your vert and six like that. And I'm saying all these things that I swore that I would never, never say, but I know who I am, right? I know who I am. And I know that I'm doing this because it's a means to an end, because I want to understand what a marketing machine looks like and how the other people are doing it and what the typical way is. And I will go through all the processes. People can call me names and say all these things because I know I'm going to get back to who the hell I am at some point. But I want to learn what all these other idiots are doing out there. So I did it. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. And yeah, now Good Drills. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now we have an
Yeah.
app. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is amazing. And one thing I really want to like double click on there is the fact that and this is I speak with a lot of gym owners, and they're constantly getting in their own way because they look at every problem. And I was guilty of this too early on in my development as like a business owner. Is they looked at every problem and plugged themselves into the solution, and how can they solve the problem, when often taking a page out of your book is, okay, this is outside my skill set, I'm not great at it, who can I find? And if more people just did that and had the self-awareness to say, look, I'm not going to be great at this, so let's bring in somebody who's going to either one, take it off my plate, or two, force me to get it done and create some more skin in the game. It sounds like your buddy from England and Ross were two like super important people in terms of like pushing you into that role, right?
Yeah. 100%. And now it's like I still wanna know everything that's going on. Like, I'm obsessive and nuts, and this is all I wake up and, I carve out the time for the family, I carve out the time for the reading and the journaling and the quiet time in nature, and I do a lot of things that balance my life, but, I have to do that. Every other waking minute, I am obsessed over this thing, and I will think about every possible way it could go in the future and try to get ahead of things and look at things from all angles and really dive deep into everything. But now it's like I want to learn about something enough to know whether or not it really needs my focus or deserves my focus. So it's like we start running this campaign or doing this or working on this moving part, and I will learn enough about it to have a working knowledge of it and make a decision whether it takes me obsessing over or not. And then I get back to the thing that is actually worth me obsessing over, and that's very, very important to stay focused. 'Cause I can't be good at everything. I want to be the best in the world. I can't be the best at everything in the world all at once. There's no
Yeah.
way. What am I best served being best at? What is the
Yeah.
company best served Bobby being best at?
Yeah. And then that's where you plug in people. Question. So, early on in the very beginning stages of our conversation, you talked about, Bobby from high school was scared of his own shadow, was just constantly doubting himself. How do you go from that to where you are now? I think when we met, you were saying like you put like almost a dozen pieces of content out on a regular basis. Like, what was the what was the reframe? What helped you get into that light where you're like, you know what, this is clearly outside of my comfort zone, but I'm going to do it anyway. Like, what? Just curious.
It started small, and I can bring it back to earlier in the conversation, reaching out to Eric and Mark from One Human Performance, who were my trainers when I was in high school. To me, to take the first step into uncomfortability was sending them a heartfelt email explaining my situation and how bad I messed up and how unbelievable an opportunity it would be. And I took one little step into that uncomfortability, right? And I put myself out there. And the email I got back from them was like they were amazed at my honesty, and it was like, "Oh, that's a thing." And that was the thing that I was terrified of, was being honest with who I was, right? I'm a compassionate, very, very emotional. I cry at pretty much any sports movie I watch. You will see tears down my eye. I am like, I could tear. I'm tearing up right now, right? It's like that was the person that I wanted to kill in high school because that person did really bad in high school when it came to dating girls or sitting at what table are you going to sit at in lunch. It's like, kind, compassionate, 6'7" teddy bears, that cry a lot. Well, who is that? I hate that person. Nobody likes that person. Well, it turns out if I just own that person and I'm just this guy, I don't have to hide from it. Yeah, I cry a lot. Yeah, I'm emotional. Yeah, I have anxiety. Yeah, I was a drug addict. Yeah, I stole from people. I was in psych wards. I've seen things. I've heard voices. What do you got? There's like trainer beef. People try to start like trainer beef with me on like social media now, like coming at my stuff. I'm like, you think I give? I don't care. Like, that's not me. Like, you come at, like, what I do it for a lit like, with athletes? I think that on the list of, like, priorities in my life, it's not up there, and it's that, and the more small so it was a small step, writing that email, doing this. I In the beginning, like, people would owe me money, and I could not have that conversation. I was so scared of confronting somebody that I had built a trainer-trainee relationship with because everybody became part of my family, and then this part of my family, owed me $1,000 and hadn't paid me in 3 months, and it was like I could not handle that conversation because I still had that fear, right, of letting them down or coming off a certain way or being viewed as money hungry. I got a therapist. Like, I got a therapist. That's what I did. I was like, "I don't know how to deal with this." Who knows how to deal with people with therapy? "Oh, go get a therapist." Okay. The therapist would hold my hand in having these phone calls. Like, we would if it was a 45-minute session, at, like, 30-minute mark, she's like, No, just go right now and make these phone calls." I was paying a therapist, $190 for 45 minutes to tell me to go make a phone call and tell this person to pay me money, and that's what I had to do, and then I do it, and those conversations never went as bad as I thought they would go, and in my experience, like, there's things I don't do for a reason, but, like, I'm not gonna not do things because of fear, right? If I sense I have fear around something, but I know it's right at the same time, I have to go do that thing because I won't be able to sleep until it's done.
Yeah, that's kind of what, as you were talking, made me think of like I think a lot of people could, they just went into situations that they know is going to make them uncomfortable. That's often where they grow the most. And also, like you said, it's not as bad as we make it out to be in many situations. Right? Those difficult conversations, those awkward positions putting ourselves into, like, yeah, that's going to happen. But that's when you grow as an individual, like you expand your capabilities as a human being, and those are necessary. But that's often, I'm sure you'd agree, but that's like I've seen it. That's why a lot of people can't get past a certain point, right? Like they exceed or hit their ceiling, and it's like, well, I know what it's going to take in order to get to that next level, and I'm not willing to come to any type of like grips with that level of uncomfortability, and then they just get stuck, right? And
Yeah.
so,
No, the high school, I was terrified that I was different, and now I couldn't be more grateful that I'm different.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's funny you say that because I like, as a dad, I was having a conversation with my daughter the other night, and it's the same thing, right? Like, yeah, she's a 7th grade, and 7th grade for girls is it's horrible. It's so challenging in every aspect of the word. And she's somebody who's like, she's always afraid of making mistakes, and she's literally like, she is me in so many ways. And I'm like, that's normal, right? Every human being feels that. It's whether or not you choose to let that define your actions. Like, are you gonna let that stop you? Right? On the other side of that fear is where you want to be. So just go towards it, right? Like, you almost should be seeking out. And that's what I told her. I'm like, as an adult, I'm actively looking for opportunities for me to grow. So I'm constantly trying to put myself in situations that get me out of my comfort zone. Like, I mean, you and I have known each other for a while. I'm inherently a very quiet, reserved person. So just doing stuff like this, like, I think for me, for so many years as a strength coach and business owner, like, I was just so focused on building a business and getting better as a coach, and I really had little time left else for anything else. And so, like, I never networked, I never, like, and so, like, this is forcing me to do all that, and I think as a result, I'm becoming a better leader and becoming a better human being. So I can't agree with you more on that type of stuff. So love
Yeah, it's like everyone says it. So you look at any of the successful guys that, the Hermosi, any of those guys out there, it's
yeah,
like lean into uncomfortability, and it means
yeah,
nothing if you've never done it. But then you get to
yeah,
that level, and it's like that's the thing you want to shout to people. It's like I was a scared, insecure, emotional little child, and all I had to do was take that. It's like everyone says it, but it doesn't mean anything until you actually act upon that. And then you get to the mountaintop. Not that I'm on. You get to this level, right, of whatever success means to you, and it's like, yeah, go do,
yeah,
go.
yeah. And some levels of though that evolution, it might be like a quick, like, might not take much time to get through, and then some it might take a while, right? Um,
Yeah.
and as long as you're just willing to kind of be okay with the fact that it's going to suck for a while, and there's like, it's like the seasons of life. Like, there's points where you're planting and harvesting, and like where it's just, you got to understand, like, it's not just steady winds across the board all day long. Like, you got and like earlier we talked about, where sometimes the challenges in life provide perspective to make sure that you understand, like, for all the upside, all the good things that like, it just makes them that much sweeter. So
I think I'm able to do what I do because of how little importance it is to me. Like the social media, like all of that. I think I'm only able to stay in this fire that I'm constantly in, right? In the grind, because I know it's not who I am. I know it's not the definition of my well-being. It's just not. And I'm able to maintain that perspective, which allows me to go as hard as I do because whatever the feedback is, whatever the criticism is, all of those feelings, I know it's all my choice that I'm putting myself out there. I'm asking for this. I am creating these problems, which also means that at any given moment, I can solve this problem and walk away. And I'm still going to have my 2.5-year-old daughter looking at me when I come in the door, and she won't know the freaking difference.
one of the things that I respect about you is, and the online virtual training space is very crowded nowadays. But you're somebody who, like, you built a very successful, like, in-person brick and mortar business, and you still, like you said, you could walk away from it, but what is it that um keeps you going back to working with kids on a regular basis? Like, what is that drives you?
That's where I get to be the servant. That's where I get to build the relationships. That's what I love. I love it. That's the thing, and that's why I wanted to take the business out of it because I wanted it just to be something that I love doing. I didn't want to put dollars behind it. I wanted to remove all of that so I could just go there and be me, and I get to show up. I don't need to be there. I love being there. But when you do it 80 hours a week and are pulling your hair out trying to pay the overhead and the trainers and you have no time for your family and I'm not hunting anymore and I'm not fishing and I'm not seeing my father on the beach in Delaware and all the stuff that I also love doing, you hate every second of it. And the thing that you love about it gets completely removed from it because to be a successful trainer, you need to run a business, right? You need to pay your bills. And it's very hard to do that as a trainer. Like, it's not easy. Like we came in here because we like work. I like working out and I like dribbling a basketball. It's the only thing that made sense to me. Like I didn't want to run a business. I was they never planned on starting. I wanted to go work for you. Your gym was really nice. This is sweet. Gave me a couple clients. This is great. Like I didn't want any of this, right? I just wanted to work with people because I didn't know anything else. But you need to do it, and I'm willing to do all those other things and figure them out.
So the online space has allowed you to continue to pursue the love and passion behind coaching, but not develop the same level of resentment. Meant that
Yeah,
that
now I hate the online business. I hate everything about it. I don't want to post anymore, and I want to kill everybody. Yeah, yeah. Now I hate that thing. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
horrible. I don't really.
yeah.
Like that's what you want
It's
to be.
cause it's
You
all
want to do this.
cyclical,
Yeah,
right?
I'm in it every day, and I'm like, not many people would do what I do. Like I just know it, and I'm not saying that to
Yeah.
boost my. Like this is like it
Yeah, for
sucks.
sure.
Everything sucks. Like you choose your
Yeah,
suck.
yeah.
Yeah,
But then it gets back to, like, everybody knows what to do, it's just very few people will actually do it,
yeah.
right?
I got to spend in the last 2 years. I don't know what I spent 6 months in Idaho with my family. Nobody even knows about
Yeah,
it. Like I don't even share the best stuff that I do. I don't.
yeah,
Nobody knows.
yeah. Well, I love that. I'm for me, somebody who's been in this industry for a long time and for a while, exactly as you described it, like, building a business, it becomes very tiring. Um, and there are certain points where, like, yeah, you do resent it a little bit. And like my daughter asked if I do I love what I do, and I'm like, yeah, most days I love what I do. Right? How lucky am I? I'm like, I'm my own boss. I'm at the stage now where I generally could come and go as I please, right? But that took 18 years to build. Um, but like again, time, right? People see where you are, where I am, and it's like that didn't happen overnight. It's consistently evolving, and we're actively working to continually make it better. Um, but I think you always have to get back to like your big purpose, your why, if you want to call it, like your underlying core principle is service, right? And to me, it's not that much different, right? Like my athletic career was cut short because of injuries, and so I've spent a lifelong pursuit of trying to keep athletes healthy and get them to the next level where I was not able to get to. And so that underlying purpose and core principle is what continually drives me every single day. So,
I think most people frame their decision making on what they want to do, right? And if me or you did that, we wouldn't have anything that we have today. It's like, I'll speak for myself. It's like again, I like basketball and working out. And if I just did basketball and working out, I wouldn't have any like I was willing to do all the stuff that I didn't want to do because I had that big picture. And now it's like I don't care. It's not about whether I like it. It's not about whether I love it. It's like, is this decision going to get me closer to where I'm trying to go, which is anonymous, right? Flip phone, anonymous. See you later. I'll be
yeah.
hunting, fishing, spending time with my family as much as possible, working on some other thing. I love working. I love building. I like now I'm on the other side of it. Like I'm joking how much like it sucks, but I love this. Like I love it. Like it's what would I do? I'm gonna go find new challenges to conquer. That's who I am. I love challenges. I go train dogs. I'm gonna be the best dog trainer in the world. I go hunt. I'm gonna kill every bird alive, right? I'm gonna, I fish. I'm catching the biggest fish, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a competitor.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of my next question is like, given where you are now, like how do you envision growth for good drills and high power?
I don't get
Or
too far ahead.
is that even in your radar?
Yeah, so I don't want I started by saying I don't get that far ahead. I certainly do get that far ahead, but I cut it off, right? The second my mind starts to go there. When I started to see things pick up, I'm like, I could do this for 5 years and be done. But then you start making decisions based on speed and not based in what's best, right? And that's what I mean, like year 3 of this online business, and we saw in year 2 the magnitude. Like we tasted some of it, like we could see what this thing could be, but we also saw that we have a lot of problems, and a lot of those problems come in from short-term thinking, or I want to retire by I'm 40. And when I say I want to retire by I'm 40, I am always going to work. I don't mean retire, but I want to have the ability. Right now, I'm going to do what's best. Every decision that when me and the partners are talking, when we're making decision, it's like, how do we build this thing to a point where it can sustain and thrive and maybe scale a little bit, but get to a point where all our families are good, the people that work with us are taken care of, and it's a fun, like, can we get to that? And I don't know if that exists, but that in theory it should exist to a point where this thing kind of runs and we can oversee and put out I think it can get there, and I'm going to do everything I can to actually see if we can get there.
So I like, and I think getting back to people and their expectation of, maybe just building things for the wrong reasons is, at the end of the day, as an entrepreneur, you get to choose, as you said it, you get to choose your suck. You get to choose what levers you want to pull, and like, what is this business providing you, right? If it's strictly money, then you're never going to make enough, right? You're never going to be happy. But for me, it's like, I want freedom. I want the freedom to be the person I want to be, to show up with my kids and my family as much or as little, like, and it's all my choice. I can come and go and coach as I choose. Like, to me, that is how I want my business to serve me. And that to me is something like that's real, right? Like a dollar sign is that's a negative sum game. Like, and I'm at the stage where I just want I want my people around me to win. I want my family to win. And if I can continue to do that and serve the athletes, right, in a meaningful way, then we're winning. So,
Yeah. I have friends who have online stuff that are 100% owners. They put 0 effort into their sales page. They have no idea what their conversion rate is. Like the most simplified version of a thing you could ever imagine, and they're doing 6 figures a year, and I'm like, "Man, that looks nice." Like, but it's like what suits you, right? It's like I chose to find a partner because I didn't have enough confidence early on that I could figure it out by myself. I like working with others, and now because I'm giving up X percentage of the business to my partners, it's like we just need to make this thing bigger. you know, it's different, but what do you want your life to look like, and then make decisions that are in the direction of what you want your life to look like. Very simple,
yeah, it is simple, unfortunately, for some
not easy.
individuals. It becomes, yeah, simple, not easy. It becomes challenging, and it I think it takes somebody with a level of self awareness and knowing what they really want. And I don't know how many people really know what they want, to be honest. So, and that look that for some that might be a moving target, right? Yeah, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So, but that's where I think first principles and guiding principles are so important because, if you're just focused on results and not the process, then it's always a chase. Bobby, this has been awesome, brother. Super happy for you and all the success you've had. And I know you're certainly by no means done, and excited to see what the future holds for you. Um, where if people who haven't heard of you, which is probably going to be rare, where can they find what you're doing and look at more of like what you're serving the population?
Uh, at Bobby White on Instagram, that'll get you there. Yeah,
Yeah,
good drills. Let's go.
appreciate your time as always. And if you haven't uh, subscribed or gone and liked the show, please do so. It certainly helps us grow the show and allows us to bring on great guests like Bobby. So, Bobby, appreciate you.
Appreciate you. Thank you.